'cause today we're diving into a wild ride through the navigation world model. Imagine teaching a robot to navigate just by watching videos. This model learns from egocentric videos to predict future visual states, simulate unknown paths, and optimize navigation in unfamiliar environments. At its heart is the snazzy Conditional Diffusion Transformer architecture, using techniques like efficient attention and sine-cosine magic to keep things smooth. Ready to explore the brain power behind robot navigation? Let's go!
Hello everyone, let's begin our exploration of navigation world models. Imagine we want to help agents like robots or even self-driving cars move around effectively. This part introduces the main idea. A navigation world model. Think of it as a tool that predicts what an agent might see next, based on what it has already experienced and the actions it has taken. It's like combining a map and a simulator in one, powered by machine learning. They handle complicated environments with something called a Conditional Diffusion Transformer. It's trained on first-person videos that show what a person or robot sees as it moves around. And get this, it can have up to 1 billion parameters. That capacity lets it predict future visuals, plan routes, and adjust those plans when needed. Instead of strictly following preset rules, it checks if it's on the right track in real time. Plus, it's not just for places we already know. It can also handle new locations by using a single image as a reference. Now take a look at the diagram here. You'll see how the navigation world model actually works. First, the model trains on videos of humans or robots moving through different environments, so it learns how actions lead to the next view. Once it's been trained, it can predict possible paths by generating future visuals. Then it scores these options based on how well they match a goal. For known environments, it can crank out future images and compare them to a target image. In unknown places, it does something slightly different. If you look at the examples, you'll notice it uses just a single input image to imagine possible routes. You can see snapshots of these predicted views along the way. The important takeaway? The model simulates video sequences to plan or evaluate navigation in a dynamic fashion, letting it adapt to new challenges without a lot of extra fuss. Next, we find a discussion about how navigation relies on vision. Humans naturally picture different scenarios in our heads and consider limitations like distance or obstacles. But most robotic systems aren't built like that. They often follow fixed or hard-coded behaviors, which can struggle when the environment changes unexpectedly. The navigation world model addresses this. It predicts what a robot might see next, based on earlier images and actions. It can even create brand new paths from scratch, or rank existing routes by how good they are. What's more, it can slot into frameworks like model predictive control, so it can optimize the path all on its own. While it has some conceptual similarities to offline reinforcement learning, it really shines because it scales to different kinds of data and environments without a lot of extra tweaks. Here, we dive deeper into the design of the navigation world model, focusing on the Conditional Diffusion Transformer. The main idea is to predict the next image in a sequence by looking at the images and actions that came before it. Unlike older models, Conditional Diffusion Transformer uses fewer resources while scaling up to 1 billion parameters. They train it on lots of unlabeled videos, covering human perspectives, robot perspectives, all sorts of scenarios, like the Ego-4D dataset. It achieves solid results even in new, unseen settings. The big win? It doesn't lean on predefined 3D maps. Instead, it just needs raw video. So the key contributions include this efficient architecture, large-scale training, and strong video prediction and planning in unseen places. It shows it can handle a wide variety of navigation tasks and keeps up with, or surpasses, current methods in performance. Moving along, we learn that goal-conditioned visual navigation is all about teaching agents to reach targets by combining sensing, like vision, with planning. Usually, systems use context images or specified goals to generate paths, especially if they know the environment. In unfamiliar places, they might explore until they find a path. Recent methods, like diffusion policies or neural SLAM, try to improve this process by simulating or mapping out the environment. But many rely on tight constraints or policies that don't always generalize well. World models, on the other hand, focus on predicting what the world will look like next. That makes them more versatile across different tasks. Inspired by ideas from robotics, gaming, and video generation, this work presents a system that can handle multiple environments and types of agents, making it more adaptable and scalable. So how does this navigation world model actually work? It starts with the current state of the world, an image of the surroundings, and pairs it with a navigation command, like move forward or turn right with a certain angle. This combination predicts the next view from the agent's perspective. In a controlled simulation, it's straightforward to see how each command changes the view. But in real life, you have to account for the physical environment. That's why this model uses egocentric video data. It records what the agent actually sees as it navigates, so it can learn the connection between actions and resulting views under real-world conditions. The core concept is to build a world model that predicts future states by looking at past observations and actions. Each visual frame is compressed into manageable representations using a pre-trained encoder, and then the model maps those representations and actions to the future state. One big advantage? The same approach can handle different complexities, say, controlling a robotic arm without needing specialized adjustments for each task. They also add a time shift parameter, allowing the model to look further into the future, or deeper into the past. This captures longer-term outcomes, so the model isn't just good at predicting the next step, but can also forecast several steps ahead. That makes navigation predictions more robust. Next up is the Conditional Diffusion Transformer. It's the main architecture. It processes sequences of these latent representations, each tied to specific actions and time steps. The efficiency comes from limiting attention to the frame being denoised and selectively focusing on frames that came before it. They use cross-attention layers to merge tokens from both past and present frames. That helps the model understand context in a broader sense. Actions, like movement or turns, get transformed into sine-cosine features and then placed into a unified vector. That vector changes on the fly to reflect scale and shifts. Because of this clever design, Conditional Diffusion Transformer can strike a balance between strong predictive performance and low computational cost, making it practical for real-world navigation tasks. The Conditional Diffusion Transformer also solves a typical challenge: attention complexity. Usually, as you increase the number of context frames, attention requirements grow fast. Here, they use cross-attention layers that give a more linear scaling, allowing longer input sequences without exploding computation. During diffusion training, the model adds noise to the target state over multiple steps, gradually distorting it. It then learns to reverse that distortion, eventually reconstructing the original state. The training objective is simply to minimize the difference between the denoised output and the real target. They have a specialized block architecture that ties together scaling, normalization, and attention for a more efficient workflow. Now let's see how they plan navigation trajectories with the trained model. They start with an initial state and try to find a set of actions that'll most likely reach the target. This involves simulating a variety of possible trajectories, then choosing the best one. There's an energy function that weighs how close the predicted path is to the goal versus following any required constraints, like not running into walls or skipping certain turns. By converting the target and predicted states into actual pixels, the model can measure how well its plan matches the desired end state. This helps ensure navigation is both safe and efficient. Next, we examine how the model handles navigation in environments it already knows. Take a look at Figure 3. You'll see video predictions that compare the model's performance to the actual paths. Visually, the future frames it generates look quite similar to the real-world data. Check out Table 1 for the quantitative side, where they measure things like perceptual similarity and how accurate the reconstruction is, pixel by pixel. They also experiment with factors like the number of goals, how much context is used, and whether action or time data is included. Figure 5 shows how Conditional Diffusion Transformer stacks up against another model, DIT, highlighting that Conditional Diffusion Transformer gets better accuracy with less computations. So it finds a neat balance between power and efficiency. Then there's the topic of optimizing navigation with energy functions and ranking trajectories. The idea is straightforward. You try different action sequences and measure each one against an energy function. Lower energy means it's closer to the goal and avoids invalid states. A technique called the cross-entropy method helps refine these candidates. The model can also rank multiple trajectory samples, which lets it pick the best one. If you're using an external navigation policy like Nomad, this ranking step can improve how you choose routes. After covering these ideas, the discussion flows into the experiments they ran to validate everything. So how did they set up these experiments? They use a mix of environments, off-road driving, social interaction scenarios, and open-world settings. All that variety helps the model learn general navigational behavior. They also throw in an extra dataset for unknown environments to see how well the model adapts to entirely new territory. They measure success with metrics like absolute trajectory error, plus perceptual similarity, LPIPS, and DreamSim. The paper compares results to baseline models Diamond and GNM. Those serve as a reference point to see if the navigation world model truly holds its own. They also discuss the experimental settings and ablation studies, where they tweak model components to see what's most important. They check metrics like LPIPS and DreamSim to see how close predictions are to the real data. A standout finding is that the Conditional Diffusion Transformer performs better than standard transformers in both efficiency and speed, even at sizes up to 1 billion parameters. Another discovery? Having 4 navigation goals instead of just 1 made a big difference in accuracy. So the model benefits from learning multiple goals at once, making it more flexible. Now they turn to how navigation world models can rank trajectory predictions. In a setup with Nomad, the system samples multiple possible routes, simulates them, and scores how close they are to ground truth. Lower losses indicate better paths. They show an example with 3 different routes, and one clearly lines up better with the goal. Context size matters a lot. More frames used for context generally improve accuracy, because you have more information about what's been happening. They also find that leaving out either time or action conditioning hurts performance, so having both is crucial for precise navigation planning. Then we dive into how well the navigation world model predicts future states and creates video frames. It does this auto-regressively, meaning each prediction influences the next. When they compare against Diamond at different time intervals, they see that the new model keeps up its accuracy longer. They even generate 16-second sequences. Those videos look higher quality than what Diamond produces. This all sets the stage for the final navigation experiments, how this model truly performs when you set it loose to find paths in real or simulated settings. Next comes a look at how the navigation world model does in both known and unknown settings. Adding extra unlabeled data, like random videos, seems to help, especially for brand new places the model has never encountered. They test the model by measuring perceptual similarity and show that even in unfamiliar spots, performance holds up. Training with something like Ego-4D helps too. The cross-entropy method is once again part of the planning process, ranking different sequences of actions to find the one that hits the goal reliably. The discussion continues by focusing on planning under constraints. Sometimes, the agent must move straight first, or it might only be able to turn after completing a certain step. They study 3 scenarios: forward first, left-right first, and straight then forward. The navigation world model manages these restrictions well, still getting trajectories close to the goal. They also demonstrate the model's ability to rank trajectories for goal-conditioned tasks. It samples various routes, compares them to the goal image, and picks the best one. This shows how NWM could improve or guide other navigation policies in tricky situations. Another point they highlight is how unlabeled data helps the model do better in unknown environments, like in the Go Stanford datasets. You see improvements across the board in trajectory predictions and video generation quality. But they also admit there are limitations. Sometimes, the model can lose context, leading to something called mode collapse, where the predictions get repetitive or drift away from reality. Dealing with complex motion, like people walking around, remains tough. So while planning through imagination is promising, it still needs some refining to cover all real-world challenges. Finally, the paper wraps up by describing the navigation world model as a versatile, data-driven approach for learning navigation strategies. It uses the Conditional Diffusion Transformer to adjust seamlessly across varied environments. It can stand alone or work alongside other policies by simulating navigation scenarios. That way, it can include constraints and plan routes more effectively. This concept merges video-based learning with model-based planning, making it possible for agents not just to see, but also to interact intelligently with their surroundings. In the future, they plan to expand its capabilities to handle more degrees of freedom and dive into more complex tasks, maybe even controlling multiple robot joints or tackling complicated movement sequences. To close things out, thanks for following this deep dive. We've walked through how the navigation world model works, what makes it distinct, and the kinds of challenges it addresses. We hope this helps you understand the ideas behind navigation world models and why they matter for intelligent navigation systems.